pretty good. Okay, good afternoon, everyone, one and all. I'm proud to be joined by Senators Murray, Whitehouse, and Carper. Now, we had a great lunch, and we covered an array of topics about what's shaping up to be an exciting week, and we're all excited about the President's budget and the contrast it will show with Republicans. But first on Fox News. Now, I have to address this because it's been weighing on me, and it intensified after seeing Tucker Carlson last night. Last night, Fox News, with Speaker McCarthy as a willing, capable, and powerful accomplice, aired one of the most shameful hours we have ever seen in the entire history of cable television. Tucker Carlson is a propagandist publicly pretending to be a newsman. We know that Fox News knows, that Rupert Murdoch knows, and that he knows that they're liars, that they're propagandists, that they're destroying America for some kind of monetary or other advantage. We've heard in federal court that he's paid by Fox News, that Rupert Murdoch specifically has asked them to promote a particular point of view regardless of the facts. This man didn't just embrace the big lie. He was one of the loudest voices perpetuating it, chief cook and bottle washer of the big lie after Donald Trump, all the while knowing it was a big lie. What has happened to any standards of honor, of honesty, of decency in America when this happens? With that contempt for facts and knowing full well that he was lying to America, Tucker Carlson ran a lengthy segment last night arguing the January 6th Capitol attack was not a violent insurrection, an attempt to rewrite history and erode the very foundation of our precious and sometimes fragile democracy. So yes, this morning I am furious. Millions of Americans are furious. I was here on January 6th. Many of you saw the footage as I ran for my life, coming within a few feet of these criminals on that day. My staff was here. Most of you were here. I don't think I've ever seen a primetime cable news anchor manipulate his viewers the way Carlson did last night. I don't think I've ever seen an anchor treat the American people and American democracy with such complete disdain. And Speaker McCarthy's decision to share security footage with Fox, it looked like a mistake from the very beginning, but now it looks like a catastrophic disaster. It's all the more shameful because Speaker McCarthy knows damn well what kind of customer Mr. Carlson is. McCarthy's not at all surprised about this outcome, and he probably even feels no remorse. Even more shameful. Remember, this is the same man whose own lawyers admitted in federal court that he should not be taken seriously, saying Carlson's statements cannot reasonably be interpreted as facts. This man, this certified liar, was giving unyielding and dangerous power to one of our nation's darkest days by Rupert Murdoch and the Speaker of the House of Representatives. Astonishing. Last night was a low point for Fox News. It was a low point for Rupert Murdoch. It was a low point for Speaker McCarthy, and devastating for our democracy. And yet these lies continue tonight. Rupert Murdoch, who has admitted they were lies and said he regretted it, has a special obligation to stop Tucker Carlson from going on tonight now that he's seen how he has perverted and slimed the truth, and from letting him go on again and again and again. Not because their views deserve such opprobrium, but because our democracy depends on it. A couple more quick issues. This week, Norfolk Southern CEO Alan Shaw will come before the Senate to testify in front of the EPW committee regarding one of the worst derailments in our country's history. I want to know, 1, why Norfolk Southern spent years pushing the federal government to roll back safety regulations. 2, why they laid off thousands of workers while reporting $3 billion in profits last year. 3, and why they launched a $10 billion stock buyback program last year rather than upgrading safety equipment. Though I will let Senator Carper talk more about this during the hearing, I would be remiss not to mention the years of rollbacks Republicans have made at the behest of industry and corporate greed. The list is a long one. From rolling back inspection regulations, brake maintenance, attempting to deregulate train crew size, and nullifying a rule that would have implemented vital safety programs. Republicans have pushed efforts to promote self-regulation, leaving safety up to the whims of free markets and profit-hungry railroad executives, allowing more hazardous material without proper oversight across the U.S. and encouraging automation of track inspection at the expense of safety. We need answers, we need change, and we're not going to stop. And finally, on the budget, lastly, this week we're expecting President's budget to lay out his plan to invest in America, lower costs for families, protect and strengthen Social Security and Medicare, all the while reducing the budget. I anticipate the President's budget will address what Americans care most about: extending Medicare's solvency by 25 years, beyond 2050 without costing a penny in benefits. That is great. Americans are going to love to hear that. Reducing out-of-pocket costs for prescription drugs and mental health care for seniors. Lowering the deficit by $2 trillion and doing it by making the billionaires and big corporations pay their fair share. We continue to wait and wait and wait for Speaker McCarthy's plan on debt ceiling. We'll be showing our plan not only to cut the deficit, but to continue to deliver to the American people. Senator Murray.
Well, thank you. You know, I always say a budget is a statement of values, and I know that President Biden will draw a sharp contrast with the extreme slash and burn rhetoric that we are seeing from House Republicans. I expect President Biden's budget to show his values are where they have always been, with American families. I expect him to be focused on the questions that I hear from folks back in Washington State, like how can we keep our country safe? How can we stay competitive? And how do we give every family a fair shot to succeed and every kid a brighter future? Now, I'm glad some Republicans have acknowledged that maintaining strong defense investments is important, but let's get one thing straight right now. That is literally only half the equation. There is a really straightforward reason we have historically maintained parity with defense and non-defense discretionary spending increases, and that is because these programs are directly related to every single one of those questions I just mentioned. I mean, ask any family if they feel safe and secure without knowing that they have clean drinking water, without being confident that their food and drugs are safe. Ask parents if they feel secure when they are forced to choose between putting food on the table or getting medical care. Ask people if they feel safe without firefighters or police officers in their communities or a well-staffed hospital nearby for an emergency. And when it comes to competing with our adversaries on the world stage, we just cannot get the job done if we don't invest in Main Street, small businesses, and our farmers as well. And we cannot compete if we aren't investing to win the clean energy race and further reduce our need for foreign oil. We can't compete if we don't invest in our kids and make sure all of them can get a great public education and pursue their higher education goals. And we obviously cannot compete if we don't invest in our American workers, those ones that we need to build those new roads and bridges and to make all those new semiconductors. That means giving them a pathway to new careers and making sure they can afford homes where they work. And if I've said it once, I've said it a million times, that absolutely includes childcare. That newly paved road to that new manufacturing plan won't do working parents any good if they don't have reliable childcare. The bottom line, we all want a strong country, and that starts with having strong families and communities. And I'm sure the President's budget will show that. Here in the Senate, we are going to be working to move our spending bills forward in a bipartisan, timely, responsible way that meets the needs of our families and communities. That means holding hearings and markups and bills on the Senate floor. And you better believe the Appropriations Committee is going to be darn busy. With that, I will turn it over to Senator Whitehouse.
Thank you, Chairman Murray. On Thursday, President Biden will deliver his FY 2024 budget request, which will represent his stated values to build our economy from the bottom up and the middle out. This will be a sharp contrast with Republicans who have made their values clear, even if they keep their numbers secret. They're here for the well-off and the well-connected, the big special interests who fund their party through a dark money armada of billionaire front groups. Their priority is protecting the Trump tax giveaways for mega donors, tax cheats, and big corporations sending jobs abroad, while attacking programs key to people's well-being in red and blue states alike. They've made clear they don't value healthy families and healthy kids. They want to cut housing in half, slash child care, cut affordable access to food, and kick millions off health insurance. They don't value U.S. workers and new economic opportunity. They want to reduce job training and make it harder to afford college and pay back student loans. They don't value seniors' dignity in retirement. They want to end Medicaid and Social Security as we know it. They don't even value public safety and national security. They want to undermine U.S. competitiveness with China, cut funding for law enforcement, and furlough Border Patrol agents. And for their fossil fuel overlords, they want to cut investments in renewables, slash investments in affordable energy, and pull funding from infrastructure. Republicans will defend a corrupt tax code that protects tax avoiders and tax evaders and billionaires who pay lower tax rates than teachers and firefighters. The Biden budget will honor his promise not to raise taxes on those making less than $400,000 and ask the wealthy to pay a fair share. We expect the President's budget to bring down the deficit by $2 trillion. By contrast, Republicans ran up the debt by trillions when Trump was president. All their caterwauling about red ink and wokeness is a smokescreen for an extremist MAGA agenda that serves their creepy billionaire elite, not American families. If MAGA Republicans leveled with the American people about what they're really up to, they'd be sent home in a heartbeat. Democrats have nothing to hide, and you'll see that in the President's budget.
Senator Carper. Thank you. Chairman of the EPW committee, as Sheldon is chairman of the budget.
When our leader, Chuck Schumer, and I were in grade school, one of our favorite TV shows was the FBI. And there was a recurring... Yes, there you go. Recurring figure in the FBI, I think his name was Friday. And he would knock on the doors to interrogate folks about a particular crime. And if a woman answered the door and started talking to him, he would say, "Just the facts, ma'am, just the facts." And I think
that was Dragnet.
Oh, okay. All right. My mind is faded. But anyway, you got it. Just the facts. What we're interested in, Senator Shelley and I are interested in is the facts, just the facts. And for me, I believe it or not, I grew up in, my sister and I were born in West Virginia. We actually went to grade school in Ohio. Later on, I'd come back to Ohio when we graduated from high school, and I would be a student at the Ohio State Navy ROTC midshipman right in the middle of the Vietnam War. A lot of my friends were from Ohio, from East Palestine on the east over to Springfield on the west. And they were my friends, but they're somebody's neighbors. And my colleagues have heard many times point to the golden rule: treat other people the way we want to be treated. And I think part of what Shelley and I want to do is make sure that folks who've been harmed, make sure that folks whose livelihood is threatened, whose homes are devalued, we want to make sure that we put ourselves in their shoes and treat them the way we'd want to be treated. For myself, I want to find out what happened, what went wrong. I want to find out what could have been done to have avoided this disaster. I want to make sure that we find out what we need to do in order to ensure in the future it doesn't occur. I'm proud of the EPA. EPA was on site literally within hours of the incident. They've been back again and again and again. They have an ongoing presence. There's been a good cooperative relationship between EPA Federal and EPA Ohio. I was on the phone this morning with the governor of Ohio, Mike DeWine, with whom we actually served for many years in the House, to get a feel for, as a chief executive of Ohio, how does he feel about the way the folks at Norfolk Southern have responded? Have they been responsive? Have been responsible? And to get his points of view. We have a hearing on Thursday. Tomorrow, Shelley and I do a press conference. We have a hearing on at I think it's 10 o'clock on Thursday morning in EPW, bipartisan hearing. We'll hear from 8 witnesses, 3 members of the Senate. We'll hear from the CEO of Norfolk Southern. We'll hear from EPA and a couple of other witnesses. And the idea here is just to get to the facts. What went wrong? What do we need to fix it? And what can we do to make sure it doesn't happen again? The last thing I would say to this is if we had any idea how much hazardous material is moving throughout this country today, by rail, by road, by pipeline, we'd probably be amazed. And we need to be mindful that the threats are posed not just by the hazardous materials that might be moved by rail, but there are threats in these other venues and these other methods of transportation. And that's a story for another day. Right now, we're going to work on railroads and focus on railroads and make sure that the people that have been harmed, the people whose livelihood has been impaired, who frankly are scared, to make sure that we treat them the way we'd want to be treated. Thank you.
Okay, questions? Manu. MR.
On the D.C. crime bill, the White House last month said that they opposed this Republican resolution to block the crime laws. 173 House Democrats voted against it. Now a lot of your members and Joe Biden support this resolution. How are you going to vote? And secondly, how did Democratic leaders and the White House so badly bungle this issue?
I'm going to vote yes. It was a close question, but on balance, I'm voting yes.
Well, how did you guys manage
Next. Go ahead. I think the best way to solve this problem is in a bipartisan solution. That's the only way it's worked. At the end of last year, Senators Sinema and Tillis were coming together on a bipartisan solution that was getting support. I'm encouraging them to do it again. Ultimately, the only answer is comprehensive immigration reform, something I would very much like to see happen. Yes? He told me about it. I haven't seen it yet, so I can't yet comment. Yes? Well, look, I believe in unionization, and I would hope that people would ask questions about why he believes unionization is not good for his company. It's good for America, and it's good for most companies. Yes?
Do you have any concern that Biden's 5% Medicare surtax could hit any upper middle class people in wealthier areas in New York? And are there any other Medicare reforms you would support?
Well, look, as Biden has said, no one below $400,000, which is, I don't know what percentile it is, but it's a very high percentile, is going to pay a single increase in taxes.
Congressman Schumer, has the caucus discussed recently the Garcetti nomination, which is coming up before the committee, and have you decided how you'll vote on it?
No, look, it still hasn't come up in committee. We're hoping it'll come up soon. Thank you, everybody.